I'm here solely for the purpose that this guy would not tell you about himself if it wasn't for me being here. So that's the purpose I serve tonight. So like Tim said, this is Tim Perkins. Tim is a dear friend of mine. We've been friends, I don't know, 6, 7 years, but for, I would say, the last 5 years, we've been really, really good friends. We talk, I don't know, regularly, text each other. So we're going to talk a little bit about him.
Wonderful.
Like Tim Brown said, he owns Perkins Motorplex, which is based in Mayfield, Kentucky. And I'm going to let Tim tell you a little bit about his business. And we're going to get started that way, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. And I still use cars. I also take out the trash at our stores. And so all those nice things that Tim and Shaun said, we still put that in perspective, what we do. So go ahead. It's like you had something.
Yeah, I was just going to say one more thing. I think Tim alluded to this. This is the most humble guy I know. He's a dear friend of mine, but he would never tell you about himself, and I'm just excited you get to hear about him today. Over the weekend, I was reading, trying to venture out on my reading, and I was reading a book about George Whitefield. My friend Mark McElroy will probably nerd out on George Whitefield. But I ran across this quote. Whitefield had a lot of success early in his life, and he was 25 years old. People were following him around all over the world. And he said this about himself, and he said, "They grew quite extravagant in their applauses, and had it not been for my compassionate high priest, popularity would have destroyed me. I used to plead with him to take me by the hand and lead me unhurt through this fiery furnace. He heard my request and gave me to see the vanity of all commendations but his own." And I read that, and I thought about Tim, because I really do think that he takes that stuff in and gives glory to God, and that's what makes me most excited about being his friend. So tell us a little bit about Tim Perkins and Perkins Motorplex. Come on.
And I told him I don't have the faith to pray that prayer. I don't have the faith to pray that. So one thing to compliment Tim Brown is Tim Brown was one of the first men. I did not come to Christ until I was 28 years old. Grew up in church, a lot of head knowledge, no heart knowledge. Never placed myself on the cross. Was far from God. And when I met Christ, then my relationship with Tim developed, and he moved from the guy that sewed me clothes to a mentor and a friend and a spiritual father, if you will. And just to give a plug about fire teams is, I was invited in God's kindness to me into a fire team. We didn't call it that, led by a leader back in Murray, Kentucky. And I was 28 years old, a brand new baby Christian, sitting with these men who were 40, 42, 43 at the time. And they treated me like a brother. I look back now and I think about, oh my gosh, like how much grace they showed me, and the importance of investing and having men you can do that. And the thing is, one thing I would say to that is like if you try to go like create a fire team, like, hey, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, and these 5 guys have put together, maybe not, I don't know, and I don't mean to offend, but maybe it will, maybe it won't work, But when God puts the group together, and then you guys start building trust, man, some amazing things can happen. A lot of vulnerability, a lot of hey, give me the last 10% of truth, if you will, kind of comes out. And so those type of things, Tim Brown, and through that, God through Tim Brown and through some other men have really put the foundation in my life. As Tim said, I was 22 years old, and I was decently successful. Even at that age, I started selling cars even in high school. I was that guy at 16 years old, and saw a guy literally at our little country church drive to the car auction, buy a car, come back, put it out in his yard for sale. And I thought, you know what, I can do that. And so it started there. And then at 22, I went out on my own and again was had some, in relatively speaking, modestly speaking, had some success, but was far from the Lord. And so when I accepted Christ as my Savior, I'd been in business about 6 years, and honestly, inwardly speaking, and this is, sometimes I think when the Lord, especially when He saves somebody later in life, I think He takes some things away from us or makes some changes like that to prove, to bear witness to people around you and to yourself, that affirmation to yourself of a changed heart. And I really don't know the day or the moment or the time that I made the commitment in my heart that I was going to try to, as best I can. And at that time we had 4 team members. But I just knew then, and again, it wasn't I don't ever remember going and hearing a speech or a talk or reading a book. I just think God planted that seed in my heart. And honestly, it wasn't even a seed then. I think it was just a tree. Like He changed it that radically that I stopped, okay, well, how much money can I make and how can we do this? And I was so arrogant and prideful, and I think God changed my heart. And from that point on, from 4 people on, when I came to Christ, I inwardly, as best I can, I've tried to really see myself as the steward of the business and the owner has the cattle on 1,000 hills, and the hills they stand on, and He's crazy generous with me. And as best I can, I try to walk open-handed with it and lead our team. And, we try to do our work with excellence. I think excellence honors God. I think big dreams honor God. And we were sharing yesterday, and it came up earlier. Maybe you guys will. I think the guy said it too. I don't think he got it, but I'll try it again. I said, if you're going to put a fish on the back of it, you better drive it right. And we try to drive the car right as best we can.
Give a little context forward to where are we now, and then we'll kind of back into some other stuff.
About 140 or so full-time team members, 8 locations, 3 states, St. Louis, Louisville, 2 Franklin, Tennessee, Nashville, Jackson, Tennessee, and then the 3 originals back in Western Kentucky. Yep.
I've had the benefit firsthand of getting to know a lot of Tim's team members, and they're crazy about him. I think it's one thing when you see a business owner say, I do this great or I do that great. But when you talk to their team members, they love this guy and they're crazy about him. The core values at their business are intentional generosity, team, fanatical integrity, and the 4th one I'll let you explain.
Well, the 4th one I stole from my friend Dave Ramsey.
Okay.
So
momentum theorem?
Yeah,
okay.
The momentum theorem. I asked him if I could borrow it, and he said yes. So the momentum theorem is focused intensity over time multiplied by God equals unstoppable momentum. Focused intensity over time. So you got to be focused, and you got to be intense. Again, I'm after it. Over time. And how long is the time? That's not for me to decide, all my days. And then we rest and let God be the multiplying effector. And I think that's that core value and ingrained in our team. And the guy that years ago who led me was a local pastor who led me to setting up our core values. The first thing he said is, he goes, these has to be values, not aspirations. You have to be living these out. If not, your team will laugh at you. And so I thought about the 4 things or 3 things and what we were. And that being a core value, it's easy. So when we're successful, sometimes in the last couple of years, like it's been this environment's been very, while challenging, extremely challenging, has been very kind financially to our business. And I remind our leaders all the time, I said, we're not as good as that statement says we are. And and then we can easily point to that, yes, I am to be focused. Yes, I'm to be intense. I mean, I'm focused all the time on it. And we're going to do it for a long period of time, and we're going to let God multiply it. And so that it just gives me a way of teaching humility to our team and also pointing them toward Christ. We are team members, not employees. We all act like we own the place. You've got your sphere of influence inside of our organization. As best we can, we give you the ball and let you go. We really believe in the entrepreneurial spirit, and we try to hire those type of men and women, and then we let them, quote unquote, run their business in their sphere underneath our umbrella, and it's worked out quite nicely. And if you'll instill that in your team, or if you as a team member say, well, I don't own the place, or I'm not, quote unquote, a leader. Well, you don't have to be have a title to be a leader, and just act like you own the place. And it's amazing the increased responsibility that typically comes with that. And when God adds His favor, He sees you. He sees you laboring, because somebody brought up earlier, like, what do you do if you're employed by a bad boss? Well, I thought, well, first thing, if you're a child of God, you're not employed by that boss. Like your Father placed you in that position. And so if we all act like we own the place, then everything will be okay, right? And intentional generosity, that's our first one. We didn't want to just be generous. We want to be intentional. 2005, that became a line item in our budget. And that we said, hey, this is if our sales and profit continue to look like this, then this is what we're going to give away. And as sales increase, we're going to give it away. And I look back, and this is it's a crazy number that I'm like in awestruck of. And I go back to that meeting when I shared that with our team. I remember showing them kind of like what I thought it was going to be, and I was all nervous. And man, like what God's done through our willingness to just walk open-handed and not put a period at the end of it. We left that and we brought that before the Lord and just said, if you would allow us to have this, we want to be intentionally generous and do your work. And sometimes that looks like giving cars to single moms, and sometimes it looks like, a lot of things. But I mean, he's grown that. I mean, I don't know. That number's 15x, probably what it was then. It's crazy. Yeah. It's crazy what the Lord's done. And
well, I think a lot of people wonder, what does that look like? Other than putting a sticker on your car, like what does it look like to once I'm all in for Jesus, like what does that look like, and how does that play itself out in my business? And I think one of those is like you talked about caring for. We call that at our work. We just talk about caring at our office a ton, and caring for your community is one, but I think also caring for, and probably even more so, I bet, is caring for your employees.
Well, our team is my customer. So they are the customer. They are the ones I serve, the team, and they're the ones facing the customer. And so I think continually, if they're outstanding men and women. You know many of them. They're outstanding, so they're easy to love. But I just try to love on them and challenge them and lead them and set big vision in front of them and inspire them that we can go do that if you guys want to. And we have a saying around our places. I don't need. I mean, I'm not a wealthy guy, but I don't need any more toppings on my pizza. If you guys want to go do this, if we can serve in this area and expand this and that, then we'll try to go do it. So I think it just. I had a pastor ask me the other day, like, what does that look like? And I just think they just need to know that I'm with them and I'm for them at all times, and that together we're better than they would be on their own, or I would be.
Yeah, I wrote down a couple quotes as I thought about that. One is Lencioni says leadership can never be about the leader more than the led. And I think that's describes, what you're doing there quite a bit. What about fanatical integrity? Talk a little bit about that, because it's not just square deal Sam, integrity. This is fanatical integrity. So
this was the one that this was the one that when we named this a core value, that I want to walk with integrity, as David said, in my own house. And I've got men and women who see that and see that if we do walk with integrity, beyond reproach as best we can, do we put the customer first, or is it all about money? What does that look like? But yeah, not just integrity, but fanatical integrity, which was my way of saying beyond reproach. And then we do the right thing at the right time, in the right way, for the right reason. So for the right reason, so my people closest to me would know why we did what we did. So we can do the right thing, and we can do it at the right time, and we can do it the right way. But what was our motive? And I think so that was the one. Like, man, when I put that out there, like, they're going to start filtering these decisions through that. And so and I certainly don't want to be found a hypocrite. And so I think just naming what your organization is for, it models well. It really gives you an opportunity to model for your team. Because, man, like if we don't transfer these things we're learning and our who we are and who we're becoming, if I'm ashamed to put that out there, then, man, you and I want to influence each other, right? And I certainly won't have any influence with my team, or we call it leadership collateral. I won't have any collateral with them if they don't see me walk in that. And so by naming it, it gives that opportunity for for us to, like, we really are in it together, holding each other accountable. No differently than a fire team.
Mm-hmm. I got a couple team members here tonight, and I think that's something I've been really convicted about lately. And maybe some of you struggle with this, but I feel like I spend quite a bit of time mentally for myself, like, growing. And it kind of hit me like, I'm doing all this, but I'm not funneling this down to my team. And they're the people I spend most of the time with. I mean, my wife laughs. She says, you talk to your business partner more than you do me. I mean, if you're at work 9 hours a day, you end up doing that. And I felt really guilty because I thought, I'm not disseminating this information of what I'm learning down to the team. And it's been something I've been really focused on this year. And, I'm thankful for you, because I feel like we're constantly kind of shuttling things back and forth. And Tim's been just one of those people in my life that, I don't know if you ever run across somebody where you feel like that guy really gets me, and I think some of it's nice that we are 2 hours apart, so we don't bump into each other at restaurants and here and there. And it's just been a great friendship. So I'm super thankful for it.
You know how if you got a good friend? If someone independently asks the other friend, says, I got to ask you a question. Who benefits most from the friendship? And if they both say, I do, then you got a good thing going, right?
Plus, I say some tough things to him from time to time, and he keeps calling me back. So
I think that's true. And I told him the other day, I said, anytime you say, got a minute, I always get this lump in my gut, like I've just been called to the principal's office. I typically pull out my notepad and my pen, and I'm like, what's he about to say to me? And the other day, a few months back, he did it. And I was like, you know what? I was being, that was me being sarcastic. Where's the gentleman who spoke about being sarcastic and that type? And that's something there's a guy on my team that we like to make fun of people as humor. And the last probably 2 or 3 years, we've been on a journey and not doing that. And not make fun of anybody like, but like just sarcastic punching, and I'm on that same journey that you're on right now, and set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth, keep watch over the doorway of my lips. That's on my prayer list and my tongue, and to just that unnecessary just stuff that doesn't show that it's funny. And I'm the boss. Like, I can get away. Like, it just doesn't show the love of Christ. And the guys I do it to can take it. They think it's funny. And if you're a bystander watching, it's not Christ honoring. It's just not. I mean, nobody's saying anything inappropriately. Again, it's just a bunch of busting going on. But if you're somebody standing around watching, they don't know that he can take it or what have you. And it's just we just try to eliminate it. My wife and I have a saying, no profit in that. There's no profit in that. So we stop doing it.
Especially with your wife.
Yeah, no question, man.
The feeling you get when I say, do you got a minute? It's the same feeling I get when Thomas Weekly, who's my dearest friend in the whole world, says, do you mind if I share something with you? I know when he says that, it's like, oh, this is going to hurt. Yeah. This is going to hurt bad.
Yeah. I think one thing too is, and a lot of men in here, same age, and you younger guys. One thing to the younger guys, I heard somebody in here saying when they were 26 or 28, one of the guys up here, and I thought, I came to Christ at that age, and I remember just in remorse over wastedness, and I had such remorse over that. And when I contemplated my sin, and I felt like, this is crazy. Wherever you're saying, I don't see you very well, so I can't find you. But wherever, at that age, I thought, well, I've blown it. I'm in Christ. I didn't know what that meant at that time. I knew I was saved, but I thought I'd blown it, man. And what I have found, man, is I'm 43. There's zero chance I would ever go back to being 40 or 42. Like, I mean, it gets so much when you're walking with the Lord. It's an adventure of a lifetime, and the whole life is in front of you. And so I would encourage that young man in that. And what I would say to you other guys, and what Shaun says to me, and the start of our friendship is, it's our responsibility to make sure we finish well. I have a friend who loves Jesus. He's crazy generous. He's got a solid organization, and he was going through a battle the other day. And I just looked at him. I said, well, duh. Like, I mean, you've got an X on your back. The enemy knows your name. Where's that in Acts? When the devil says, Paul and Silas I know, but these other people I don't. I mean, the enemy knows. The enemy knew who Paul was, right? And the demon was saying that. And the enemy knows who you are, right? And who I am. And what Shaun said at one of our very first conversations, he goes, we got to make sure we finish well. And what does that mean? Quite honestly, my wife will say something to me sometimes. She said, would you say that or do that in front of Shaun? And the answer is usually no, because I was usually probably being a punk.
The finishing well comes from Steve Farrar's book, Finishing Well. And for me, like that, I think he talks about in there, like being the guy that your daughter wants to marry a guy like you, and I think that's the ultimate pinnacle of being, to that point. Speaking of mentors, this is, re-ups built around those mentor relationships. Talk a little bit about just mentors you've had in your life. I think Tim and I probably spent 5 years where we thought each other were our mentors, and maybe we still hadn't figured it out yet. But just the importance of like having mentors in your life and what that's looked like for you, and then maybe a subsector of if there's guys in here looking for it. I encounter guys a lot of times that are saying, I'm trying to find it, but they're not just going to pop up. You got to search it out too. So it's kind of a long-winded question.
So typically, like mentor, you think, well, that guy's got to be a lot older or whatever, or a lot better at something, what have you. And maybe that's true. But what I would say about Shaun is, while I care deeply about Shaun, I have a ton of respect for Shaun as a man. as a business leader. But Shaun is my mentor in my marriage. I've only been married for 5 years. And Shaun's my mentor. He's the guy I talk to about things with my wife or things around that or things I'm dealing with. And so it can look a lot of different ways, but here's something I'm extremely confident in. Okay, I've got very few absolutes, but here's an absolute guarantee, take it to the bank. If you are a child of God and you ask your Heavenly Father in sincerity for someone to come into your life and help you, 1,000%, He's going to run to answer that prayer. And it looks it's not on the shelf and you go and say, "Ooh, I'll pick a mentor." Like, it's God planted men in your life at the right time. What's the saying, when the student's ready, the teacher appears? You know, it was Tim Brown for a season of my life, and it was Billy Kennedy, and it was Bill Adams, and you, and what I would say about all these things, and Gary Schneider. Now, you know these guys, but like I never went into one conversation and said, "Man, I need a mentor. I think that guy could help me." Like it doesn't start that way. I've got young people on my team that ask me, like, and there are a couple of guys that I'm intentional, and I wouldn't say that I'm their mentor, but they probably would. And then some of them will say, "Well, how do you find a mentor?" And like, that's like, I don't know. That's kind of there's some fuzziness around that. And the only way I know to break through the fuzz or the uniqueness of that is ask the Lord for it. And what I'm learning, and like, time is crazy important to me. I certainly have a lot of, personally, I have a lot of sin in my life around time where I'm so selfish with my time. Something the Lord's working on me. And so, but what I would think is, if I want a solid man to be my mentor, well, he's probably going to be busy, and he's probably got this, and he's probably got that. He's whatever, it's probably. Who am I not to give that time to somebody else? So I've got to be at this age of my life, especially. I've got to be willing to speak into another man's life. But to you guys, and especially the younger, I think. If you ask the Lord for it, that's the absolute. He's going to deliver for you in that. And to you older guys like myself and older, man, like, what great encouragement for you guys. Like, most men walk this life alone. Most men, even Christ followers, they're going through it alone. I just commend you and encourage you in that. Man, you guys have to invest deeply into these friendships. That's not just, I look at some of you, and it's just not, if you had these friendships in your life, and it's not just about telling jokes around a cup of coffee. Real stuff happens, real relationships happens. And man, I'm so encouraged by that when I see you guys here.
And also, I think, as individuals too, being hard on ourselves and taking an inventory of how we're using time. Tim and I talk about that a lot, just not allowing that excuse of just, I'm too busy, running our hours of the day through a filter to see what is it that's filling up the time, and is that really more important than meeting with somebody younger or pouring into somebody else?
And I tell my wife, I said, in God's kindness, I hope I'm busy the rest of my life, right? And that what a blessing from the Lord. To have a lot going on, and whatever that looks like for different people in different seasons doesn't mean you have a big business. I mean, it could be like whatever it is to you. But so being busy is not an excuse, because there's hopefully, in God's kindness to me, there won't ever be a point where you're like, yeah, I don't have anything going on.
What about the magical question? What advice you give to the younger Tim?
I asked him for an email to give me a couple of these. He put that. I still don't have I still don't have a concrete one that I would say, like, oh, that's the put it on a tweet it type thing. But I do have this, and to the guy I was talking about spending time in the Word. Here's what I'm learning is that I would go back and tell the little younger Tim who'd been probably a believer for 2 to 3, 4 years is prayer is everything. It's like prayer is everything, and not prayer like, God, would you bless her up, and would you, like go by my list, but like, Lord, you know what's on my heart, and I'm about to share this with you. Like just that time where it's just just a slow, the gentleman talking about walking his farm, like just a slow conversation with the Lord is what I would, the answer to that is, and then echoed when that gentleman said that tonight, is what I would go back and tell the younger leader and like yesterday, like I'd go back and tell that guy, man, the more you got to do, the more you hope to accomplish, the busier you are, the more this, the more that, certainly needs the like you are. I don't have time. Like, well, that just means you more time alone with the Lord, in dialogue. You know, he's and then if you believe like I believe, like he owns the place, and so I don't own it, and so that could sound crazy to some, but yeah, I really in my heart I truly don't feel like I own it. So we had a team member who was just giving us, we're extremely blessed. We have a unbelievable entry policy. So you don't get on our team if you're a jack. So but we had somebody on our team that's kind of blah, 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 blah. This is going on for a while, and we're wrestling with them and trying to show them grace. And I'm driving home. I remember my office manager called me and said, "You're not going to believe what so-and-so did." They lied to a customer. Like when it just refund their money or something. Don't tell them a lie, whatever. And the second time it happened, and I said, "I want her gone today." I'm going I-24 going back to Nashville. About 10 minutes later, I picked up the phone and called her right back. And I said, most of the time the Lord gets me a little later, but then it was instant. And he said, in my spirit, very plain language, I can testify to it today. It's been 4 or 5 years ago. He said, "I thought it's your testimony that I'm the one that brings these men and women to your team. Don't you think you need to ask me before you do something with one of them?" And so I was acting as in my own strength then, and I called her right back. I confessed my sin to my operations manager. She's been with me since day one, hired her in college. She just celebrated her 21st year. She can run the place. And it was just a moment. So talk about integrity. She just saw my flesh fly out. And anybody in this room would have felt like I said, you wouldn't have said it, but like you would have felt that way, right? Because this woman just like totally like just, ugh. Well, that was, if I don't confess in front of my team member, she loves me. It looks to me as a friend, a brother, like we're in this together, right? But like I would have lost something, a little bit of a, you know what I mean? Like, so I think it's just that when you're so open about walking with Christ in your workplace, and you know it and I know it and like what have you, and then I do something like that, and then I don't confess it like that. I call back and say, "Man, I'm so sorry I said that. That's not the way I feel. Let me just tell you. Let me just tell you what the Lord just didn't. He doesn't hit me with gloves. Like he doesn't knock me out. It's always, you know." I said, "The Lord just put on my heart really quickly," and I confessed. And I said, "Hey, what you needed." You know, anyway, I'm not going to chase a rabbit. What we did, but what we didn't do was react the way I wanted. The person's no longer with the team. We transitioned them off, but not in the way that I wanted it. And I think that's what it means, like walking with the Lord in all things in the marketplace.
And it's so cool, no offense to the industry, but I think you're in an industry where people aren't expecting that kind of stuff. I mean, you made the joke early on about being a used car salesman. But it is cool to see. I mean, this is what it looks like to, one, to be all in for Jesus, but also, to live and run your, as Mark and I talk about a lot, business as mission. What does that look like? I think Perkins Motorplex is doing that and living it out day in and day out. So I'm thankful for that. Anything else you're consuming from a growth standpoint, or just as you think about personal growth outside of your Bible reading and things like that?
I think one of my mentors, Billy Kennedy, one of the first men who taught me how to walk with the Lord as a leader. We were standing there one day, and he said, and I'm brand new. We had a transactional relationship. He loved Christ, and we had a transactional relationship. And when I came to Christ, because of our relationship, he started, mentoring me. Anyway, he said, challenged me to read a proverb a day, a chapter of Proverbs a day. At that point, I couldn't find Proverbs in the Bible. Just being dead honest. Probably, and that's best I can. 15 years later, especially in the last half a decade, that's probably been transformational in my leadership and how I conduct my life and my affairs is allowing that wisdom that's still cutting and true today shape and guard and filter my decisions. And so something as throwback as Proverbs, so if someone said, what's the best leadership book you've ever read? It's easy. It's Proverbs. But secondly, I think, there's some pastors out there that get it done at a high level that I have a lot of respect for. I don't listen to their sermons. I don't attend their church, but I respect them as leaders. And so a lot of us, we could say, like, because you guys are in Bowling Green, and I'm from Mayfield, and even in my little pocket of Nashville, you say, well, if I could just be buddies with that guy, or if I could ever set whatever industry you're in or whatever thing you're in, like if I could just sit and do, and if I could just learn, and what would he say? It's everywhere. All you got to do is want to get it. And so I would say just make it intentional, and to echo what Tim said earlier, not 15 guys pouring into my life. One of them's a Jewish rabbi, but like just some guys that I agree with about 95% of how they lead, and I try to again be encouraged and learn something from their leadership. And I tell my guys at our work, I just call it digging, and a very, very simple term, but you just never know. You never know what you're going to find. I just keep doing it. And you never know when you're going to find that one thing, that transforms your life, your leadership, or more importantly, the life of someone else that's in your community, or on your team, your buddy, what have you. And so, I would really think that if you hit something tomorrow, you thought I needed to know, you would tell me, right? Mm-hmm. So it's a multiplier effect. So not one thing specifically, but like just dedicated, And I'm not one of these guys like, oh God, we're going to read this many books a year, and I'm going to get this many done, and this many done. Like no, but just actively, I'm in motion. The law of I'm in motion, in God's kindness as best I can, trying to get better each and every day. Why? Because I think he's got things he wants us as men to accomplish. And I need to be better equipped to accomplish the things he wants me to accomplish. And I pray for this, and somebody may judge it, like I want to be entrusted with more. Like I don't want to be the 2-talent guy, right? I think it's Christ honoring to be the 10, the 10-talent servant, and Lord, is there something above 10? Like I think that just delights him, and so I'm on that path, so that when time comes, that he might choose to trust me with more. And I welcome that. And I want to be found faithful with what I have now. And so part of that is me being the best version of me, not for myself, but for the people that are around me and the people I lead. And I'll give you a quick story, and I'll shut up. But there's the same operations manager I told you, she started on day one. She's still with me today, 21 years later. And once a year, we give out Christmas gifts. It's not a bonus, it's a gift. You earn your bonus throughout the year, right? This is a gift. And so a lot of our reconditioning shops and things are on our campus, but you got to walk 2 or 3 blocks back. And no matter how cold it is, we usually do it the second week of December. It's usually cold. And we make that walk. And I'm back there all the time. She's back there all the time. We're never back there together. Like this is one time a year. Like we make that walk and do that. And I can remember when we probably had, 30, 40 team members. And something I would say to her as a leader and as a friend and as a colleague and all of that, and as someone who I'm leading, I would look at her and she was I would say, Kate, the Lord's never going to give us 80 if we can't take care of 40 well. And I wholeheartedly believe that. And, so I owe it to them to get better. They put their trust and their confidence in us and our company. And, everything rises and falls on leadership. And so it's almost, it's my, I wouldn't, if I'm not striving to striving, not like meaning challenging myself and growing, if I'm not doing that, then I don't know. I think it stops where it is. And I don't want that for them. I don't want it for us. I don't want it for our customers. And so that's the challenge and that's what drives me on. It's kind of a long answer to that, but I don't think it never stops. It's not 2 books a year, 5 books a year, 12 books a year, 30 books a year, 1 podcast. It's just a mindset that says
Lately I've been doing a bunch of research on Jerry Seinfeld. The young people don't know who Jerry Seinfeld is, but I grew up where Seinfeld was the thing, and he's 60. I think Seinfeld's 67 years old. He writes 30 minutes a day, every day, and I heard him on a podcast, and he said he goes once a week in New York City and tries out his jokes. And the guys on the podcast said, "Why would you do that? You're Seinfeld." And he said, "Nobody laughs at your reputation. You got to get up and do the work." And I thought that's a great reminder, no matter how old we are or what we're doing. This guy is a dear friend, and I'm thankful that he was here tonight. He got up this morning in Nashville, Tennessee, drove to Mayfield to be with his team, then drove here. He's driving back to Mayfield tonight. So tell him thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you.